So today we're going to do our Lotus Premier Guide, and let's just dive straight into it. This is the team comp I'm going to suggest using. It is Omen, Fade, Raze, Killjoy, and Viper. That is a Viper and Killjoy below my head just here. And this is the team comp that I would recommend. If you don't want to play any of these agents, these are the alternatives I would suggest. You can play Astra for Omen if you wish. You can play Skye for Fade if you wish. I would genuinely say to keep Raze. It's just going to be a bit more simple, I think, for most of you. Although, if you really, really want to play Neon, you can. And if you really, really must insist on playing Jet, then okay, I'll just about allow it. You can play Cypher for Killjoy, but I would recommend not doing that because I think Killjoy is just going to make your life easier. And you just must play Viper. You just play Viper. I'm begging you, please play Viper. So then let's start with the attack side. And this is going to be a bit different to some of the Premier guides I've done before because Lotus is a bit of a different map in certain ways that it plays out. Because our attack side goal is basically if we can get the space like up to here, across the map like this, and then going across towards A, if we can have this space, right, as the attackers, so all of this here, you're in a pretty good spot on this map. Now, you might think, but we don't have any of the sites, so are we in that good of a spot as the attackers? Well, that's the thing. That's going to be our goal for this map, and this is why Fnatic are so good at this map, because a lot of this map is about taking some of this early space and then just being able to manipulate rotates and, you know, being able to manipulate the map to where you get a pretty free site and, you know, or at least an easier site to take. And that is because once you take all the space, you know, up to here and up to there and up to kind of the box here and the door, once you've taken that space, you then just have more options than the defenders do, right? Because, for instance, the rotate time, let's say that we are playing in towards C and we've taken this space, but we've also got someone in here who knows that there's no one, you know, close up on B. What that means is that if we want to go to C, but, hey, we think there's like maybe 3 people here or whatever, we think there's a lot of defenders on C, well, when we open the door and come this rotate time is quicker than this. Right, we're going to beat the defenders there to the B site. And we're going to be in on the B site. We're going to beat them to this choke point and get through it. And then we're on B, right? And then things are good. And the same is true across towards the A side of the map as well, where if we've got the space up towards here, it's exactly the same thing, where if we're thinking about going A, but hey, we think a lot of people have rotated across towards A now, and you know, there's a lot of people in here. Well, it's exactly the same thing where, again, this rotate time from here to there is quicker than coming, you know, around this way or around that way, right? So this is basically the point of this map, is that if you can take a lot of this early space, then you can just out-rotate your opponents, essentially. And that is what you should be looking to do. Basically finding, you know, take the early space, finding which site doesn't have the most people on it right now, and then just run into that site, basically. That's pretty much what you want to be doing on this map. That's what that's going to be a large focus of our attacking side. So let's start with some Viper walls, and the first one you're going to do here is you're just going to put yourself on the right-hand side of this little decoration or whatever it is, and you're just going to send it through this wall and this wall, basically. It's all you're going to do, so it's going to end up looking, you know, something like this, right? Something like that. And you're just going to send it, and basically you're going to end up with a wall that looks, you know, something like this. And yeah, this is a Viper wall that obviously from the defender's point of view, you know, you're not going to be sure what's going on towards A. You know, there could be any number of people walking around in here, and that's the whole point. A second Viper wall, you're going to tuck yourself into the corner here towards A, and you're just going to aim towards B. You're going to aim to get this wall just kind of on the right-hand side of, you know, kind of the defender's entrance point to B just there, and send this wall. This is going to give you a little pocket to get out of initially, this, you know, little doorway here towards A. It's also going to block off this little entranceway there and block off, you know, kind of the back towards B just there. And then for a Viper Orb here, one that you're probably going to throw in quite a few rounds is just towards the left-hand side of whatever this, you know, little symbol is just there. You know, just kind of on the outside of the circle. Just a normal left-click throw, and it's going to bounce off it and just land here, again, allowing you to cross nice and safely just there. So let's start with our A default then. So this is a default where we're looking to take the early space towards A. And as I said, often in these rounds, what you might end up doing is taking one space and then coming back somewhere else, or maybe taking a different space, right? One of the other lanes, depending on what goes on here towards A. So we're going to start off with our Viper wall, the first Viper wall that I just showed you, right? Coming in, you know, something like that. Obviously, it won't be perfect here, but, you know, something like this wall just there. And what you're going to do then is send these 4 players towards A, and your Killjoy will be left alone towards B and C. So for Fade here in this A default, what you can do is you can just throw a Fade Horn basically up there somewhere. You can take maybe a couple steps, little jumping throw, and it'll land, you know, somewhere up here. And this is going to clear out, you know, just some of these first parts of A, make sure that no one's getting really aggressive, and just clearing out towards this doorway as well. So as the Raze and the Omen, what you can do is Blast Pack and maybe TP across here as these two make their way up here as well. And the idea of what we're trying to do here basically is to clear out the first part, right, kind of on our side, let's say, of the Viper wall to start off with, right? Is anyone getting really, really aggressive here past the Viper wall? And, you know, if so, then what we can potentially do, right, is swing this way and swing this way. And, you know, anyone in here should be in a lot of trouble, hopefully. And then obviously once the Viper wall drops down, then we have a couple options to us. We can either use an Omen smoke in just here, or if we're feeling maybe a bit more brave as well, we can even throw our Viper orb maybe a bit deeper as well, just to come in back there. And but essentially the point is you've cleared out this first part, then you're going to clear out, you know, this kind of second part, and, you know, you're going to take control of the early part of A here, and at that point, you know, you should be good. Now obviously if there are people in here, you know, use your utility to fight them, right? Use your Omen Flash, use your Prowlers, use, you know, whatever you feel like you need, your nade, right? Whatever it is to try and help win that fight, yeah, you're gonna use it to try and help win the fight. There might be no one there, right? And you can just come and take this space at that point for somewhat free. Now for Killjoy, in a lot of these rounds, you're going to be putting your turret up on this box, but I'm actually going to suggest when you're doing this kind of early A default to just come and put your turret, you know, somewhere back here, watching out towards C and watching if anyone is pushing out up here, and get yourself actually just watching towards B, you know, from some kind of safe angle like this, right? Just jiggle peeking like so, you know, and you're just going to be towards B. The reason that I'm suggesting that is because if you come and put this turret over towards B and watching B and have your Killjoy maybe, you know, out here watching towards C, is obviously if your opponents do come and do like a push out of both B and C, your Killjoy is going to be in a lot of trouble and might not be able to cross back to the rest of the team. Whereas if, you know, your turret is over here towards C and your Killjoy is towards B, just kind of, you know, not getting aggressive, not taking any fights, just literally getting the information of where these people are, then you can then, you know, very safely cross across here and, you know, manage to get to the team if your opponent is getting very aggressive. Now for our B default as the Viper, I'm perfectly fine with doing either of the two walls where, you know, whether it be the B wall or whether it be one over towards A. I will just show you a quick trick with this A wall and your orb as well, which you will be putting down in this instance when you are, you know, more isolated in this B default. So down is the first wall that I showed you, and if, you know, say at the start of the round we came and threw our orb down just there as well, one thing that we can do if we are somewhat isolated in particular, but maybe even if we're not, is if we put both bits of utility up at the same time, we can sneak into our orb, pick it up, and end up in this little gap here, right, where, you know, we're just kind of in between, tucked between the walls. So if someone is like walking up here and trying to get aggressive, right, we can drop the wall and just be in a bit of a weird position that they might not expect, but still very safe in this corner, right? And you know, we're still doing fine. But this is one little trick that you might want to use sometimes as well. I wouldn't do it all the time because it will become a bit predictable, but, you know, maybe once or twice in the game you can just sneak up with it. So for Viper, you can do that trick with this wall, or you can use the other wall instead. Either is perfectly fine. You will probably be throwing this orb. The Omen will be with you, and again, if you're this Omen, you have choices as well to teleport across here and kind of determine, you know, if you want to try and get aggressive maybe with the Viper and fight this together, you can, or otherwise, you know, you can just, you know, stay back, play a bit safe, and wait for your teammates to take the space instead. Now for Killjoy, you're coming and doing this same little turret here over towards kind of, you know, towards the C site, and with the turret back here, the range is something like this, right, where you can still actually play up here towards B and still be with your teammates. So, you know, you're just going to put this turret down and kind of be with your teammates. And really, as the Raze and the Fade here, you know, as you're coming up here, this is a very good area for Prowlers, right? So sending in a Prowler just like this, maybe seeing if someone's behind this box as well, sending in a Prowler this way is going to be very effective. And maybe the Boombot and or nade as well, right? Like if you do spot someone behind this box, you know, sending a nade, you've got nanoswarms potentially, you've got a seize, you've got a lot of utility to, you know, pressure someone in this area who's trying to play up close on B. This should be something that you should be able to deal with. And again, the point of this default really is not to get too deep. You know, anytime that you do come here, by the way, take this auto if you have cleared this out. But we're just trying to clear out this, basically. Just this little lane here. That's all we're really trying to do, right? You know, nothing much else to it, to be honest. If they do smoke this off, by the way, one thing that you can do, which is quite sneaky, is walk across here and then, you know, give yourself options. Maybe leave one person here. You know, maybe it's a late option to come back B if you need to from C, or, you know, maybe you do pivot towards C and they come and take that space. You know, it can go a different couple of ways, or you catch someone trying to push out of B from this corner. So that's one option as well. And then finally, for our C default, this time we're going to put this Killjoy turret on the box just here towards B to watch out any pushes this way. And your Killjoy and Viper will be over towards A, and these three will be over towards C. So to start with Viper and Killjoy, your job is pretty simple here. You're probably not going to be as aggressive here as you were when you were Viper and Omen, because you just don't have the utility to actually, you know, maybe effectively cross or kind of beat the timing or something like that. So you're probably going to be a bit more safe. Again, Viper, you can go for either of the setups, either of the walls, perfectly fine, you know, mix up. But you're probably just going to be playing a bit more safe and a bit more steady here, not getting too aggressive. Basically just checking, you know, are they being aggressive on us? But you are going to be trying to take the space here towards C with these three players. So for Omen, one thing that you can do here potentially at the start of the round is just learn this one way if I can find it. It's just somewhere in here, somewhere like that. And this one way, when you put it just on there, you know, it's just going to make it a bit harder for any defenders to actually, you know, peek out of this angle and just create a nice little position for you there. Also, if, you know, people are being aggressive in this area, you can also, you know, use a little teleport across just to create a bit of a different angle here and fight from a different angle as well. For Raze, the possibility of creating a bit of a different angle as well is just to come on top of this box just here, right? Create a bit of a different elevation for you just there to fight in this area as well if needed. But really, you're mostly going to be relying on your fade. And look, it's perfectly fine to just throw a normal haunt down something like that, right? This is going to just tell you, is anyone behind this box? Is anyone back here? You know, is there anyone kind of in here? You know, are they shooting it? Are they leaving it alone? If they leave it alone, that's obviously great information because you know that it's cleared out. If you do want to put it in a bit of a fancier angle, what you can do is kind of come back here and just kind of throw it, you know, towards the roof here with like a jumping throw, something like so. Right, just come and land on the roof. It doesn't fully clear behind this box, so that is one thing you have to think about, but, you know, it's nice to throw in there as well. Or you can come and throw them on top of this thing as well. I'll probably miss it this time, of course, but, you know, something like on top of, well, not that far, but, you know, something like on top of this box just here, right? Something on the top of this as well will clear this out, but not truly see all the way deep in, but could be useful as well with that kind of Omen one-way coming in to clear out, you know, most of this. And so those are the three kind of, you know, how you might take the early spaces in this map. And then the thing is, as I was alluding to at the start, is from there you can, obviously it depends on exactly what happened, but let's assume that no one has died, right? Let's assume that you've taken that space, but no one has died from either side. You know, you can then go and basically do one of the others, right? So let's say that we did do our C kind of default here and we take this early space towards C. You can then just go, okay, well, we've got C. We'll leave our Omen there, and then we'll come and do our B default now, right? And we'll come and take this, and, you know, we've still got Prowlers left, and maybe we've still got our Boombot left, right? So we'll come and take this B space here and, you know, clear this out. And now that we've taken, you know, both these spaces towards B and C, and, you know, we've shown a lot of presence towards B, so maybe they're going to start rotating in like this, and maybe your Omen, you know, even sees or hears someone, right, rotating across there. You go, okay, well, now let's just take the door and go towards C instead. That's how you're going to build out this map, right? You might come and take A, and then you might come back and take B, and then you might, you know, come back and do a B split, or you might come and hit A site. Like, you know, you've got options to you available. And so it's just about like building blocks essentially, right? Do one and then, you know, go and do another, and now you're in a good spot. And again, if we can get them pushed back, you know, all the way to where they don't have any of this space, you know, that's when we're in a really good spot. If we own all of this, that's when, you know, we're in a really good position, because then we can essentially choose to, do we want to go A? Do we want to do a B split? Do we want to, you know, quickly pivot to C? Like, you know, you've got options available to you at that point. Now, I will be showing you how, you know, we get onto the site in just a second, but just another quick note as well is, you know, because this will happen, what happens if there's 4 people here, right, on the defender side, and they just throw a ton of utility at us, and we can't take this space, right? We're trying to default towards A, but, you know, they just sent a ton of utility in here, and now they own the space, right? Well, you have a couple options. If you think, wow, that's at like 4 people at least, then my advice would be probably just go and run to C. Right, if you think it's like a full 4 people, just run, right? Just literally go, okay, well, again, because if they're trying to get aggressive in here and trying to fight this space, then again, it's going to be in your favor where by the time you've made this decision to go and run this way, you know, they've got a much longer path, you know, even coming through and breaking the door. Their path is going to be longer than yours. You're going to be already halfway there by the time they've realized what's going on, and you're going to be able to probably take this C site. So, you know, if they are getting very aggressive on you, just run away. If they've, you know, sent you back there, you know, with maybe just a couple bits of utility, but you don't feel confident in going out there, then you can just kind of go, okay, reset and go back into one of your other defaults if needed, and then come back to it later on when you've made noise elsewhere, if you still do want to go back and take the space that you initially lost. So now let's move on to the execs part of this, and we'll start with our A exec. And the thing is, anytime you kind of feel comfortable as Viper and you've taken this space as a Viper, as I say, you want to be throwing down your Viper orb just anywhere kind of in there towards the kind of stairs area. Anything like that will do, right? This is where you want your Viper orb to allow you to, you know, just have that kind of nice smoke to just come in here and attack the site. Now for Fade here, what I would suggest is get someone to open the door for you, but then send a Prowler in towards, you know, the kind of tree area, and just try and clear this out if you are the Fade, right? This is going to be a nice little area to take if you are the Fade with a Prowler. Can be very effective at clearing this area out, and that's going to allow you to attack the A site from two different directions. As Omen, you could send a smoke obviously in towards Heaven, just there, and then if tree is clear, then you can just run into it and potentially flash from in here, right? Anywhere towards the back site is absolutely fine. If tree isn't clear, then obviously you can use your flash, you know, to potentially try and take that space, right? So if they're behind the tree or whatever, you can flash them, or, you know, if they're over this way, you can flash them and then run in behind that, right, and try and take that space. And then as the other three, you know, you're just kind of chilling here. Obviously you might put an alarm bot behind you if you're the Killjoy. Your Raze, you know, you might send a nade back site just here, and your Fade after prowling this, you know, might come and just throw a haunt from the back site, you know, just anywhere around here is fine as well. Or, you know, you come from tree and send one in this way as well. You know, either is kind of fine at this point. Again, like, the whole point is that hopefully you won't be doing an exec into, you know, 3 people, 4 people, right? The whole idea is here, this is going to be 2 people max, and, you know, between the flash, if you've got a haunt, prowler, you know, this is just a lot of pressure to have to deal with in general. And you know, again, you don't really need to take the whole thing, right? You just need to take enough to then just get the spike down and then play Postplant. You know, that's the thing. We don't need to take a massive amount of space here on deep onto the site. We just need to basically clear out this kind of first area. If they're in Heaven, that's perfectly fine. You know, doesn't really matter too much to us. And we're just going to try and get the spike down and then play Postplant. Now, if our call instead is to do a B split, often we're going to end up in a situation like this. It might be the Killjoy alone here. You might send the Viper back with the Killjoy after you've kind of done your A default and taken this space, to then, you know, come and take this early part towards B and come this way, whilst these 3 come in the other way. Can be either, can just be the Killjoy, can be the Killjoy and Viper. Either is kind of fine. One thing that we need to know, and this is the thing, you might take this A space and your opponents might smoke this off, right? If your opponents do smoke this off, I would suggest, you know, you can use this to your own advantage, save a smoke, and just, you know, use it to B split on your own, right? If not, if they haven't smoked that off, then this is probably going to be an important smoke that you want to throw down just there as the Omen to allow yourselves to cross and, you know, come and do this B split. Now, again, as the Fade, the Prowlers are going to come in very big and very handy here, right? Where you can send a Prowler into kind of towards the baby door just here and, you know, clear this area out. Going to be very effective. And again, you don't need to get too fancy with it. I mean, you can throw something through there if you want to, and it will reach onto the site if you want to get fancy with it, but you don't have to, right? Again, just a normal throw of any Fade Haunt is going to be perfectly fine. Just, you know, break their crosshair placement, whatever. Again, you can throw a Seize Nade if you've got good coordination with your Raze, right, into a certain area. All of this is going to be absolutely fine. Again, you can send a Prowler and a Boombot here with the Raze if you want to into this first part and, you know, just very effectively clear this out. We have a very good comp for clearing out some of these close areas. As Omen here, obviously, again, you might have smoked this, you might have not smoked that with your other smoke because, and again, if our Viper has the B wall, then obviously we don't have to worry too much about the other area, but we can come and do this smoke, right? Get in here, you know, flash across the site, or whatever we feel is necessary, right? If we know where they are, if we know they're up in heaven there, you know, we can send a flash at them instead. All is perfectly well and fine. And again, if you do have the Viper wall here, then that's fine. Again, if you don't, but they've put a smoke here, then you're still fine, because you've still got the 2 smokes to put one in here as well. In general, I do think it is a little easier to smoke heaven if you don't have it. So let's say you only have 1 smoke left. I think smoking this probably is a little bit better, just because the different elevation can just be a bit annoying to play against at different times, whereas, you know, you can focus on this pretty well, especially if you are coming from B main. So it might end up looking something like this, right? We sent Prowler, Boombot in here, we got the smokes up from both sides, you know, we got our alarm bot behind us, our Killjoy's coming in this way, we're flooding in through this way. Now, as Viper, if, let's say, you have stayed over here towards A, you haven't come back to help out your Killjoy, you just stayed out here instead, then what you can potentially do is just tuck yourself into, like, back behind rubble or back behind the door here, because then what you can essentially do is just cut off people coming back around, right, and kind of following your teammates in behind, and be a very, very pivotal late lurk, whether you lurk then just at the end through this way, or maybe you come back all the way around them, right, if you feel you've got time to do that. Either could be very effective. Now, if we're coming in and doing a C Exec, one thing that we're going to do, and potentially you might want to do even in just part of your C Default as well, is throw a C's nade kind of towards the back here of C, right, towards the kind of back stairs area, just somewhere kind of, you know, in towards this, right, is going to be very, very effective to send in a C's nade here, catch anyone in this kind of spot, try and get that kill. And obviously, if that is part of your C Default and you get that kill, then you might just want to go on onto the site, right? You might just be like, well, we just got a kill, let's just go. You know, but that's going to be a very effective part of whether it be your C take as a team, or just maybe a part of your default as well. Now, for Omen here, you won't have the Viper wall to help you out, so you will need to go for the old double smokes, obviously, just like this. And when you've got those double smokes down, again, really, ideally, this should be, you know, somewhat clear, right? With the C's nade, this kind of area should hopefully be quite clear. So what I would suggest is you could probably send your flash more towards the kind of backside, right, where people have run away from that nade, and so now you're flashing like this instead, where, you know, you're hoping to catch people who are running away and are back here somewhere, and then going for them, right? Then, as the Omen, what you can do probably is, well, I wasn't going to TP on that box, that might be a bit aggressive, but just TP across is perfectly fine, right? So you're just TPing across here, and then entering with your Raze, who should have blast packed across as well. So for Raze, the whole round might look something like this, right? Where, you know, you've taken over towards C, your C Default just in here, you're coming up, and, you know, you haven't seen anyone. Maybe you've blast backed on top of that, maybe you haven't. You go for a C's nade just in towards the back of the site, just there, so in goes your nade. Oh, you know, didn't get a kill, unlucky. Hey, let's do a C Exec though, right? You wait for your teammates, and then really you don't have to go for any crazy double blast back plays. You can just, you know, pretty simply blast back across the once, and that honestly should be enough. Maybe then your Omen is flashing just as you're coming around here, right? And then, you know, you're getting those kills. Really, that honestly can be enough a lot of the time as you're going for this C Exec. Now, for Killjoy and Viper, one of you might be in the situation where you are the lurk towards B, right? Or even a lurk towards A. If you were the Viper over here towards A, you might be a late lurk over towards this. If you're the Killjoy here, you might be a late lurk in towards this B site, right? And trying to come back this way. Either is perfectly fine, honestly. And again, it's going to depend on exactly how the round is gone and exactly where you found yourself. You might just come back to the team, right? All are perfectly fine situations. But again, the idea of this map is that we aren't going for like massive execs where we send in a bunch of util. We're really just trying to take all of this space and then manipulate those rotations, you know, so that if this C Exec, for instance, we think is going wrong, we can then just open the door and come towards B instead. And now let's talk about post plants. And obviously, if you can plant for mound and do the whole cringe thing out here, then yeah, do it. Because it's just, it's OP and it's annoying as the defenders, and I'm sure you've all played against it, and yeah, it works. So don't be afraid to do that, because it's very difficult for the defenders to do so. In that situation, I would say you just want to make it like look as if your presence is still here on the site, not taking a fight whatsoever, and then just retreat back here is probably the best way of doing it. Makes them actually use their utility to like retake the site, but you know, that's their utility gone, and then you're fine. So that's the way you do it. If you are forced to plant, like, you know, in this corner or whatever, then I would suggest getting maybe a bit aggressive with it, right? Don't be afraid to go and, you know, push out if needed. That's perfectly fine as well to, you know, get a bit aggressive, push out, take some extra space, because sometimes the post plant here on C can get a bit awkward, a bit weird. Obviously, if you're in like a 5v3, you'll probably be fine anyway, but if, you know, you do find yourself in a spot where, you know, you feel like we're just going to get trapped in on the site, you know, we're all just huddled here around kind of water and whatever, like, you know, then you might want to go and try and make a play and actually push deeper, because otherwise the post plant on C can get a little congested. In towards the B site for the post plant, again, it's going to depend on exactly what space you have taken. You know, if you have just gone for a full B exec, I would again suggest that you don't just kind of, you know, all run back here and try and play on the site and back in B main. You're going to get destroyed. You know, you need to probably at least kind of have towards this space, or if not, then you're pushing deeper, right? You're pushing deeper and taking extra space. Again, you can't live with just, you know, kind of this square as the space that you've got for that post plant. You're going to lose unless it's like a 1v1. So yeah, if you are in that post plant situation, then again, I would suggest you need to, you know, trying to be pushing it a bit. And again, certain positions, late lurks, right, from people who are maybe sticking out towards here, right? These are some cringe angles, right? That if this door is destroyed and your opponents are trying to flood from back here, you know, I mean, who's checking this, right? It's too much to check almost, right? Back here on rubble as well. But, you know, look at that for an angle. It's so cringe, right? And you can just get free kills. So, yeah, that's one option as well. And then you can even be the late lurk to come back, you know, and kill the last person as well, coming in through the door. And post-plant positions, you're going to plant the spike either, you know, kind of down towards that box or down here in the bottom of the pit as well. And towards the A site as well, A is a bit different, where I would say you don't really need like as much space. You're not going to be fighting to take all of heaven, although this can be a nice little angle to play up here as well, potentially, particularly if you're in low numbers situation. This is a pretty good angle to be in, but yeah, you don't need to take too much space on the A site, because just the angles are kind of in your favor. You know, back here is nice. Your space is kind of out here, really, right, where your space is kind of, you can play anywhere in here. Obviously, tree is going to be a main part of your post plant here as well, when the spike is planted on A. And your two main plant spots are going to be for here and here. And again, you don't really need to be, you know, too aggressive playing all the way up here. I'm going to fight you on this bizarre angle. Like, no, right. You're just going to do the same thing where, again, maybe you're playing a bit of a fighting retreat where, you know, you're kind of showing presence on the site, making them use their util to clear out this space. But you're not really ending there. You're not really trying to actually hold on and die for that space. You're just coming back here and playing in the more, you know, nice angles where, you know, you can then make a difference where, you know, here in tree, for instance, there's only one way in, one way out. That isn't obvious. And then finally, let's finish with ults. Now, the main reason, or one of the main reasons you're going to be playing Killjoy is because the lockdown is OP on this map. Whether it's in this corner, whether it's over towards C, kind of, you know, anywhere towards this. You know, whether it's something like that, whether it's towards A and over in towards tree, whatever it is, the Killjoy lockdown is insane in this map. And you should use it whenever you feel like you can, because it's really good. And you should be farming ult orbs, as I said. And yeah, Killjoy lockdown, yeah, pretty good. For Viper's pits here on C, I mean, if you can get the spike down and in a post plant, and then you could just do a pit, anything like this, really. And this kind of pick just gives you a kind of safe little angle here just to kind of sit in. Let your teammates fight in the pit, but then, yeah, go and defuse the spike in the middle of this pit. Right, go and defuse that, right? Good luck. Good luck, my friends. And then just let your teammates fight it, and you just sit back here and just safe. And just keep the pit up, and there's really no way they can defuse the spike at that point as long as you're alive. I mean, here on B, basically any pit is good, because, you know, any pit here on B is going to cover a lot of the site. So, yeah, any pit there on B is pretty good. And then coming in towards A, one that you'll probably want to use is, again, particularly if the spike is planted on this side for you, just one outside of tree, just like this. Again, there's only one way in and out that, you know, isn't obvious, like when they open the door. So if they can only come through this, yeah, good luck pushing through this Viper's pit. Again, if the spike is planted here, yeah, good luck, my friends, because look at this. You know, you're going to have to go through a lot of this pit to get here, and I'm just going to be tucked in here. Don't you worry about it. And again, if your teammates can fight for you instead, that's great. And, you know, even when they're on the spike there, you know, you can just bounce snake bites off the wall. They're just not getting through it. So again, Viper's pit, kind of OP on this map on attack side. Obviously, for your other ults, your Fade ult, you're not stupid. Just look at the map. You know what a good Fade ult is. The same with a Raze ult, right? Use it whenever you feel necessary. One Omen ult on attack that you can use, particularly if you want to go for maybe a fast C hit, is an Omen TP kind of back here towards C and then try and pinch on people in towards this C site. That is one option that you have available to you for a decent Omen ult. But now let's come to the defensive side, and like we did with the attack side, we'll just talk about the basics of the map from a defender's point of view. Okay, so let's talk about this defensive side, and of course, the main problem for us as defenders is exactly the advantage that I talked about for the attackers, where if we give them this space, we're in a lot of trouble, because again, they can rotate quicker than we can. And so we're just going to end up not knowing where to go, and against a smart team, they're just going to abuse the fact that they're going to beat us to any site if we just give them too much space. So we have to be willing to contest space, and probably the most important one is over towards A. And the thing is, our setup kind of like as it is here is going to be somewhat of what you want to be doing. Now, the thing is, you need to adapt to what your opponents are doing. Some of you are going to be playing in games where your opponent is going to just force themselves down A lot. You will have been in ranked games like this, I can almost guarantee it, where people are just, they're sending 5 players towards A the whole time, right, at the start of every round. Some of you are going to be playing against teams that, don't touch A nearly as much, and you need to adjust how much you're committing to what they are committing, right? If they are committing a full 5 players there every round, what I would suggest is you get these 4 and you stop them from doing it, right? You stop them from taking that site, or at least you give them a really good fight. Because if you have these 4 agents here, you got a lot to potentially play with, right? You can go for a one-way up here, you can go for Omen Flash, you can go for Raze Nade, you can go for a Seize with a combo with that Raze Nade, right? You can go for a Fade Haunt up on top of here. You can go for a Viper Molly in there as well, right? Or maybe behind Rubble. Like, you've got a lot of utility to potentially throw at people to give yourself a good chance in that fight, that initial kind of fight, to push them back and take that space. The thing is, though, if you're playing against a team who, doesn't commit as much, then don't use as much, right? Like, you might just need a one-way. That might just be it, right? And so you need to adapt in terms of how much util are you actually needing to throw here to take this control? Because against different teams, it's going to be a different amount. So in the first couple of defensive rounds, try and figure out, like, okay, how much are they actually sending here, right? The majority of the time, you're probably going to have, I would say on average, like 3 or 2 players here, right? Where Omen is almost certainly going to be one of them, most if not all of the time in these setups, and then maybe you send Raze or Fade in there as well, just as potentially an extra hand, or you might have all 3 if you want to really kind of fully commit and fight it. And the thing is, we aren't going to have a lot of different setups for this map, because basically there are only certain things that I think actually work on this map, unless we have, like, Killjoy lockdown for retake, for instance, right? That's maybe one instance where you go, okay, we can play very passive on A because we got a Killjoy lockdown for retake. But other than stuff like that, you're going to want to be somewhat in this kind of shell. And let's start with Viper and Killjoy and talk about what their roles are first. So as Viper here, and I'm just going to say it, every single round you're going to come up here on B and you're going to throw the wall that comes across here. So you're aiming towards the kind of, rotating door there over towards A, and you're just going to throw this wall. Right, and I mean this every single round. Just do this wall. This is going to be your wall of choice. And most rounds as well here as Viper, you're going to come over and play towards C. And when the barriers drop, you're just going to throw your orb here in the kind of entrance way to C. And it's going to be your job to stall on C, right? And the thing is, if they come knocking on C, you put this orb up and you put a snakebite there, unless they're stupid, they aren't coming through it. And if they are stupid, you're going to kill them, right? So that's your kind of job. This is your Viper's job. You're going to be back here a lot, and you're going to have some support as well, so don't worry. You won't have to be in that kind of angle the whole time. You'll actually probably be back here kind of a lot, just with a snakebite out, and you'll just be waiting for your Killjoy setup. Because a common Killjoy setup that you're going to do is you're going to come and put an alarm bot here on towards B. Maybe you'll put a nanoswarm there. You don't have to. It's kind of, you can mix up where you put your nanoswarms. Your turret is going to be in back here towards C, just on top of this box. So something like that. And again, you might put a nanoswarm just here to stop them entering in on towards C. This could be 2 nanoswarms here. It could be 2 nanoswarms on B. Mix it up, right? Let your opponents guess. The thing is, then your Viper can play off the contact of this turret. So this turret goes off, your Viper then snakebites, right? You then have a nanoswarm here as well. They aren't coming in. That's the point. You have enough delay here to stop them from getting in. And as the Killjoy yourself, you're basically just going to be pivoting between B and C, like figuring out, like, you know exactly where you should be. Okay, they're coming C, right? You want to be in a position to help support your Viper, you know, in here with your Viper as well. If, you know, they're coming towards B, then it's going to be your job to, you know, get back here and, you know, try and defend the B site as well. Now, if you are playing a team that's, you know, not going towards C a lot, or you feel like your Viper, you know, is your best player and they can hold their own on C, then what you can do is you can just come and put a turret, you know, anywhere up here, right? Just to kind of check both entranceways just there. You might then go for like a kill setup in here towards the baby door, right? Like, you know, something kind of like this, whatever, right? To try and get a kill in here as well. You know, if you feel like you can kind of forego that, and then, you know, again, you can probably just play maybe even this angle off the turret just here. You know, in a nice little safe spot. And over towards A, you're going to be, as I said, committing different amount of utility depending on your opponent, right? So it could be a C's, you know, just anywhere kind of in towards there. You can throw Fade Haunts on top of this with something just like that, and you know, have a Fade Haunt up there, right? It's perfectly fine as well. Even one that, you know, kind of goes somewhere up here, although it's probably not a great example, but, you know, landing somewhere here instead, you know, it's perfectly fine as well. And in terms of Omen, again, you have the Paranoia to fight here early on if you want to, right? Something like that. You also have one-way options as well. And what you're aiming for in this one-way is just this archway here. You know, so from back here, it might look something kind of like this, right? Where, yeah, you send it in just there. And it lands just kind of on the corner of the roof just there. And you get a nice little one-way. You can then also TP up onto the kind of rubble area here. And then just hold this, right? And the thing is, what you're going to do here as Omen is you're just going to keep refreshing this one way as long as you can, basically, right? So you're just going to keep doing this one way and keep, you know, just staying here like, oh, they're coming here. The thing is, if they come and fight you at some point and they get past this one way and you think, I'm in a lot of trouble, remember, this is why we have this Viper wall cutting across here, right? So what's going to happen is they're coming at you, you're in a lot of trouble, but you've got this Viper wall. Your Viper wall goes up, you TP, you're behind it, you can run away. Right, that is what is going to be our goal, essentially. If you are playing Omen here, that's what you're going to be doing a lot of. Now, you might not always TP up on top of rubble, right? You might come and play from a lower angle as well. But as long as you've got that second TP to get out, you know, you're going to be perfectly fine. As long as that Viper wall goes up and you can get out, you're going to be absolutely fine, hopefully, and, you know, manage to get back here in time. So this is what our main setup might look something like, right? Where we've sent in some amount of utility. Again, depends on what your opponent is really doing. Again, if they're really heavily committing it, maybe even bring the fourth player across. But ideally, you'll be able to hold it with just 3. Our Omen is TP'd up here. We've got the Viper Wall to help protect the Omen. We've got, you know, this Viper Orb and Nano Swarms and Snake Bites from our Viper here. Our Killjoy is just playing in between with an Alarm Bot Nano Swarm here. So let's say this is what our ideal is, right? We've taken this early A space here so that the attackers don't have it. If they come towards C, we feel we can stop them. If they come towards B, we've got some stopping power there as well between the wall and the Nano Swarm. That's our ideal. Now, once we get to this position, we can potentially just leave our Omen alone. Again, if we trust our Omen, these two can then just leave, right? And these two might come and play in towards B, just like this, and your Killjoy and Viper might play together in towards C. Like, that is how you might organize this, right? Where you go, okay, we commit towards A early, and then we just kind of shuffle across the map, kind of towards B and C instead, until this Omen gets pushed back, right? And then once this Omen gets pushed back, you know, then we might shuffle back the other way, right? Where, okay, we shuffle one this way, we shuffle one this way, you come back this way, you know, and we just basically shuffle as the map goes past. But the thing is, we need to make them commit utility to actually pushing us out of that position, right? That's going to be an absolute key to this. We need to try and get some amount of control in this kind of area, and often it will be fighting towards A, and we still have this backup of the Viper Wall. If your Omen is struggling in this position, then instead of shuffling everyone across, you can give them a little helping hand with a second player instead, and maybe only one person shuffles across instead, right? It's gonna depend on what you're struggling with, right? And you need to adapt to, you know, where are your opponents commonly playing? What are you struggling with on this defense side? Because there probably will be struggles in these rounds, because Lotus isn't an easy map to defend, and so you just need to like, you know, make those small adjustments to how you're playing this exactly to get the best outcome. Okay, our secondary defensive setup here is going to be where we're going to get a bit aggressive towards C instead, and we're going to try and take this space away from the attackers instead of A. So for this, where you've got your Killjoy and Viper, you still see we've got the same Viper wall coming across here. You could put your orb in a position like this, right? That just allows you to put this orb up and defend this. Also helps your teammates here if they need to kind of pivot out and come through the door here, right? Just blocking off this angle for them. If they do, for whatever reason, need to pivot and get out of this door, that's their easiest escape. And your Killjoy setup really can be a bit different, kind of, you know, do what you want to, really. This is a pretty good turret that'll watch, you know, kind of towards the tree area just here and out towards kind of, you know, if they come deeper in towards A. You can put these nano swarms and alarm bot really where you want to. You might come and put it in towards the little baby door there. You might put it in towards tree. You might put it down here, right? Really anything is perfectly fine. And as Killjoy, you're probably just playing like back here, really, you know, nice and safe, as if they do come towards A, you'll probably just have to play a bit of an A retake. Now over towards C, you have a couple options as your Omen here. You can either just do this one way if you want to, or you could just smoke this off, right? Just to start. It kind of depends on exactly how you want to hold it, right? If you kind of are trusting your aim and you can trust that the three of you will win this fight with this one way, then that's fine. Or if you really want to get kind of, you know, sneaky aggressive, maybe do the one that just blocks it off and actually walk all the way up, right? And get into a position like this where you can really fight it. Maybe one of you is tucked behind here, one of you behind mound, right? Or even two of you behind mound with a player in here as well. And then really you have a choice of how aggressive you want to be. Remember, the attacker's spawn barrier, you know, is like back here. So really you can get out into this area if you want to, you know, as the attackers get here, you can get pretty far out as well, particularly if you do smoke it off and, you know, kind of give them a bit of a deterrence. And then it's kind of up to you whether you want this to be a bit of a trap, right? Where you have like, yeah, maybe one person jiggle picking, then one person leaves, you know, while someone is tucked in behind this corner, or whether it's you actually want to, you know, get really sneaky and actually push out then. You know, from there, you then have options where, you know, inside the smoke, maybe you throw like a Fade Horn out here. Maybe your Viper even gets aggressive and sneaks up into this. And as I said, then you could maybe even go for a pinch like this if you wanted to, you know, with a Fade Horn, a nade potentially out here. And particularly if you're playing against a team that, you know, maybe is going for a lot of 4-1, where they're going for, you know, 4 players towards A and then they just leave kind of 1 player out here towards C and B. Maybe this is a strat that you could use where, you know, you try and get aggressive on them from both sides and try and pick off that 1 player before coming back towards A. And then our final setup here is going to be similar to the last one, but a bit more of a passive version of it, where, again, we're playing for this full retake A. Again, maybe we've got Killjoy lockdown or something like this. If you have time, I would suggest putting a Nano Swarm in here towards the kind of baby door. If this breaks, you can pop this Nano Swarm. Just give these two on B a bit more time. Your Fade and Raze here can maybe be a bit aggressive, right? Again, you have like C's nade combos that you might want to send in here. You've got Prowlers and Boombots to get kind of early information. So these two you might want to trust to actually be, you know, a bit more aggressive and kind of stopping them at the door of B, right? And even before the door of B, really. Over here towards C, between Omen and Viper, you have some pretty good options as well. As your Omen here, you can, you know, send a flash down here from this kind of angle. Very effective at stopping them. And again, with this orb and the snake bites, that will be pretty good. Again, you can just do the normal Viper wall, just keep saying this Viper wall, you know, it's always going to threaten as if you might be pushed up, you know, with the ability to escape. So you're always doing that Viper wall, again, helping these guys as well get out if they need to. And then again, if they come towards A, you're just playing retake, again, probably with some amount of ults, be it Fade ult, Killjoy ult, Raze ult, all of that kind of stuff, maybe even all 3, just to, you know, try and hammer home that this is going to be a good retake for you, and the rest of the map should be safe and secure. And now let's talk about rotations. And obviously on this map, you will just be rotating through kind of the back alleys here of the defenders, you know, spawn. That's where you're going to be rotating, of course, most of the time. And the reason that, for instance, you know, we're pushing up in these areas and we're taking space at least somewhere, right? We're trying to be aggressive at least somewhere on the map, is because if we don't, we're going to get out rotated. And so this is like the reason that we need to take some of that space to make sure that we can get those rotations in on time. For instance, if our Omen was pushed up here and then gets pushed back behind the Viper wall and back here, obviously then we can send some extra help. And again, we're just always looking, are they actually coming here? Are they not? And always keeping an eye on and a thought that, okay, if our Omen has got pushed back and we're in this position, don't forget that they could still come B, right? That, you know, we don't want to just commit everyone to A. they still have other options. The same is for C and B as well. If we've lost both of these spaces just here, you know, we have to remember, well, they could take the door and pivot at any point. We can't just all commit towards C, because otherwise you will get punished by a smart team who realizes, well, let's just take the door and go towards B instead. In terms of retakes, as I said, for the attackers, really, if they're just stuck on site and they're just in these areas and that's how they're playing their kind of post plants, then you should be in a pretty good spot to, you know, just bombard them with utility. One thing that you'll need to be careful of, because again, your rotations might be a bit late if you do lose a site, is that they could have pushed up in areas like this, right? You need to be very aware that people who know what they're doing are going to push up in these areas. And so you'll need to be aware that you can't just walk up to here all the time, right? But again, when it comes to the C retake, obviously a big part of it is going to be Mound. Of course, one thing to try and stop that is Odin. Right, the Odin is very, very good on this C site in particular, and so if you're playing Viper or Killjoy or whoever is on C, you might want to pick up an Odin, because the thing is, there is no safe plant spot against an Odin, right? You can spam through this, right? This can get spammed by an Odin, so there is literally no safe plant spot. Again, of course, being kind of in this corner, you can always kind of like stop people from planting just there, be it with an Odin or not. So keep that in mind as well, that that's a good position to always be in if you do need to fall back. But yeah, if they do get the spike down and you are in that post plant, you know, you just need to essentially try and flood and take the site probably as quickly as you can, right? If they are just playing for that mound. Of course, smokes are going to be important, and you need to be planning ahead, right? If it's your smoke player who's died, if your Omen has died, then you might need to go for more of an aggressive flank to stop this, right? Or you might need to open the door if you still got that space, right? Just to try and fight them, because without smokes, yeah, getting on this spike from here, fighting against the people in mound, it's going to be incredibly difficult. For retakes here on B, again, clearing out the actual site itself and kind of, you know, pushing people off the site isn't too difficult or tricky. Remember to check this little angle as well. It can be a bit of a pain, but let's say, for instance, the big problem here on these B retakes will be people out here, right? Stopping you from crossing across here. If you are the defender on A, you know, you're in a B post plant and they've planted on B, it will be very, you know, encouraging to... On the B post plant here for the B retake, again, if they're just trapped on site, you know, with a bit of utility, especially with the comp that we've got, where we got Fade, we got Viper, we got Omen Flash, like, you know, it's going to deal with that pretty well. But the big problem is going to be out here towards A and crossing across here. And it can be very tempting, you know, when people plant on B as the player defending A to just run across here and come through this way. But again, against anyone who knows what they're doing, you will die, and you probably won't have time to check all of this out. Obviously, if your Omen has been like up here or you know, down here on the back of rubble the whole time, hasn't seen anyone coming out here towards A, then obviously, yes, you can do this way and you can come this way, or maybe even threaten a flank in behind as well. But if you have been pushed back and then, you know, they have maybe even come through this way, you have to be very, very careful. Unless you're like in like a 3v5 and you want to take maybe a big risk, try and find a timing to get the even back, then that's fine. But otherwise, I would suggest, you know, just going the safe way and coming back to your teams. And for an A retake, I mean, if you can, you always want to smoke this area, right? You always want to smoke this off. Because it's then going to allow you to cross downstairs and kind of clear some of this. And then if anyone is on the site, you can then pinch them from heaven and come this way as well. Again, this is going to be tricky. And ideally, as an Omen, you are an important player in this retake, because, again, you will need smokes for this, right? You will. Otherwise, it's going to be very, very tricky. But obviously, smoking off can just help you a bit. Smoking off this as well can help you a lot. So, yeah, if you're an Omen here, basically what I'm saying is live. Don't die if you're Omen, because for these retakes, you are going to be very, very important. Okay, in terms of ults, I would say probably the best Viper Split. I would say, apart from like, you know, in post-plant scenarios and stuff like that, if you do just want to pop one up the rip of a round, probably out here towards C probably is your best option, right? Something like this that gives you, you know, a nice little pocket, really safe pocket to play from, so that you're not, you know, the pit will stay up 100%, right? And then, you know, as you look at this as an attacker, you just think, maybe let's not. So yeah, this is probably the best Viper Split I would recommend for you on the defensive side, you know, aside from certain ones at post plants as well. This is going to be probably your best Viper Split. Again, the Raze, Fade, and Omen ults, you know, use whenever you feel necessary. You'll know what a good version of those ults are. Killjoy ult, now, if you could ever get it somewhere in this corner, then that's great, right? Look at the circle it's going to get. Problem is, it's going to be tough to defend, particularly if they're playing a Raze as well, because this is going to be pretty easy to nade and just destroy it straight away. So if you can get it there, then yay, that's great. Probably more likely though for a safe one is you're probably going to put something like this, right, which is going to push them back here. You're going to know that they're back here, right? It's not perfect, but it's kind of like good enough, right? For the B site, again, in terms of like any kind of retake, you know, putting it anywhere back here is perfectly fine, right? Just anywhere back here is going to be more than enough to, again, just push them back and be in a really good spot. The B ults here for Killjoy are really quite good, right? Whether it be in this corner as well, pushes them back, you know, all the way to the back kind of baby door just there. So that's a very good ult. Obviously for C site, this is going to be your main one. Again, if you can get this down here, I mean, this is insane. If you can make this survive, then yeah, this is an absolute crazy good ult. If not, then you can just come and ult here towards CT, but this one, you know, not quite as good, particularly if they have planted for Mound, because they can just sit here and be happy anyway. So yeah, it depends on exactly what's going on. Killjoy lockdown on defense here can sometimes be a bit awkward, not as good as on attack, but still very useful. Okay, and that really is Lotus. And as I said, this is a bit different to a lot of other maps where it's not maybe as exec heavy or something like that, right? Where you're focusing on comboing like a million bits of util and running it onto the site together. It's more about this kind of early space, really. That's what this map is about. And then managing to manipulate rotations, whoever your IGL is, or, you know, if you're calling together, you know, you need to be very clear with, you know, what you want to do and be ready to pivot at a moment's notice, right? Because at some point you're going to realize, wait a minute, there's 4 people on C. Let's go to B instead, right? And you need to just hear that call and instantly all know, yeah, that's what we're doing, because it can get very chaotic in those moments. And for the defender side, you're basically trying to stop that, right? You're trying to just say at every point, no, you're not coming in, right? You're trying to just make sure that they can't get into C, that they can't get through B, that you're taking space somewhere on the map, and that you're going to force them back and, you know, make them use as much utility as they can to actually push you off, and then go from there and constantly adapt to what your opponent is doing. See how easy it is to potentially take this A space, you know, and then go from there.